Emerald Soldier here, and I'm back to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 10, and my thoughts on this episode. I think it was a fantastic episode. Yes, I did just say that. I think it's a fantastic episode. The best episode of the entire 3 seasons. The episode had action, it had a great storyline, it called back to characters and other stories in the past, and it was funny to see a Badgie scenario, a Badgie on steroids scenario happen in Lower Decks, because that was funny when what happened. I think the story was fantastic. I have to admit that. Mariner was great in this episode. Boimler was great. Tendi was great. Rutherford was great. Again, if they showed this much dedication and good writing in every fucking episode of Lower Decks, maybe this show would have a bigger fucking following than what it does now. Unfortunately, they don't. They tend to do stupid shit, which pisses off Star Trek fans. But let's not talk about the old stuff. Let's talk about this episode. I loved it. I can't pick out that many flaws. There was one flaw in this episode. Well, not really a flaw, but just something that pissed me off. It was the mention of Picard and how he's attached to this whole thing, which was just ridiculous. But okay, I can kind of deal with that because I just like the main story. They didn't fuck about with like side stories. They didn't fuck about with, taking a piss out of Star Trek. They just did a good story that had Star Trek connections, and I loved it. For me, what I'd give this out of 10 would be a 10. I just think it was an amazing episode. It's fun to watch. It had action. I enjoyed it. And I loved what happened near the end with the Cerritos class. Not Cerritos, with the California classes. I enjoyed that. I didn't like Boimler's stupid... I'll go into that in spoilers, but... Again, if it pisses me off when we get episodes like this, because, the final episodes of Lower Decks seem to be the best ones. Because they seem to be the only fucking episode they put any decent thought into. That they want to keep people coming back to this show. And everything else is just secondary. Again, if you just put this much dedication, this much good story writing into every episode, this could be a massive success. But they never do. Which pisses me off. So I want to get into spoilers now. But yes, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I loved it. I would watch it like 4 times in a row if I could, because it was just that enjoyable to me. So let's go into spoilers now. If you don't want to hear spoilers, leave in 3, 2, 1. So we start the episode off with Captain Freeman talking to Starfleet Command about what happened with the journalist, and basically trying to defend the California class because Admiral Gwen, I think his name was, is proposing to replace all California classes with the Texas class. And Captain Freeman is dead against this because she still thinks humanity needs to be involved in Second Contact. But Admiral Gwen says there won't be any human error with his class of ship, and Second Contact is not that important, if we're being honest, which I can agree with him on. So the admirals are pretty set on replacing the California class because of Captain Freeman's disaster from last episode. So Captain Freeman comes up with an idea, a race to do as many Second Contact missions in one go to show which class of ship is better, the Texas class or the California class. and Admiral Gwen agrees to this mission. Agrees to the challenge, and the admirals say whoever wins this this challenge, their class of ship will continue the second contact missions. So Captain Freeman heads back to the ship, tells her command staff what she proposed to the Starfleet command. They're pretty much all confused about this because that's a lot of missions they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to be quick about it, so they don't want to fuck up. But Captain Freeman says, listen, they have to do this to save the California class ship. So everybody goes and tries to sort out their part of the ship, tries to make sure everybody is on their game so that they can beat the Texas class. We then get this stupid storyline in the episode. And again, listen, it is Star Trek Lower Decks. There's always going to be a stupid storyline that we have to deal with Boimler insulting the Bajoran security guy, by calling him insane or something. And so Boimler throughout this episode tries to apologise to the Bajoran guy, and he's just pissed at Boimler because he insulted him, basically. Anyway, so the Texas class and the Cerritos head off to do their missions, their second contact missions, as fast as they can, because apparently this is a race they have to do to prove which ship is better. I'm not saying it's a stupid idea, but you didn't really need to make it a race. Just who can do the best job would have been better, in my opinion. I'm not saying that didn't like what they did. Again, I just would have liked it to have been formed in a better way instead of just saying it was a race. Kind of shouldn't be a race. It kind of should be who does the best job gets the job. That's what I would say. I should mention what Marina's doing at this point, which is she's still the archaeologist stuff with that bird she's met up with. She saves a idol from a bunch of Ferengi. She gets chased, and then she gets transported back onto a ship, where she then starts to wonder who is supporting this archaeologist's missions, because she donates all the archaeological stuff she finds to museums. So Marina wonders how they can afford the ship, how can they afford the fuel, and she starts to think there's something serious going on here, there's something nefarious going on. So she starts digging, and then she finds out who is supporting this archaeologist woman, and it turns out it's Picard. He's the one funding her, he's the one paying for her fuel and her ship. And I kind of just thought, this is such a ridiculous part of the episode. I don't need to know what Picard's doing here. I don't care who's funding her. If it's not a bad guy, if it's just Picard, I really don't care. I really don't. So that's what Mariner does most in this episode. But again, Mariner does do something amazing in this episode, and I'll get to it at the end of this. But let's go back to the Cerritos. So the Cerritos gets to the first planet first, beating the Texas class. But that's only because Admiral Gwen is just being a dick and giving them a head start. And they get there, they beam down, they repair the planet's systems and leave some generators for them. But when the Texas class gets there, it beams down everything straight away and pretty much embarrasses the Cerritos on the first planet. They both then warp to the next planet, where when they get there, they all beam down to the planet that were from the Cerritos. Rutherford starts to figure out that the coding from the Texas class matches something in his memory, but he can't figure out what yet. And Tendi finds that there might be life on the planet, and so everybody has to stop what they're doing because they can't endanger any life whilst they're, on a planet. That's one of the rules in the Federation. You can't endanger life, so they have to stop work. But unfortunately, the Texas class doesn't do the same thing and takes the lead it just drops its supplies off and warps to the next planet. So now the Cerritos is behind the Texas class, and the Texas class then heads to the final planet, which is a planet that just forms out of nowhere every couple of years. So it kind of comes into our reality every 7 years, and it's only a short period of time it's in our universe, so it needs these supplies urgently. Texas class gets there first, beams down its supplies. We get this cringe scene where the kid is acting like a moron. I don't really want to get into that. It is Star Trek Lower Decks. There is going to be stupid shit in it. So Texas class gets there first, beams down the supplies, and the Cerritos gets there too late because the planet then vanishes again. And then it's announced that a Texas class beats the Cerritos, and now the Texas class will be taking over all second contact missions. Unfortunately for Admiral Gwen, Tendi figured out that the planet may have life, and the fact that the Texas class did not do the exact same thing shows that a Texas class is too dangerous to send out on missions if it could somehow endanger people's life. So when Captain Friedman brings that to the attention of Admiral Gwen, he starts to panic because this is a serious problem for him and could set back the Texas class program. So he goes insane, which is pretty weird, and orders the Texas class to attack the Cerritos for no reason. Well, for a reason, but it's kind of a seriously stupid reason. Like, how the fuck could you cover this up? You're trying to kill Federation officers. You would be found out for doing that. You would be fucking... The Texas class would be destroyed if you did that. Again, I still like what happened in the episode, but it is a kind of a stupid thing for the Admiral to do. To attack a fellow Starfleet officer. Ridiculous, but again, I enjoyed it. Oh, I did forget about Rutherford. Yeah, Rutherford figures out why he knows the coding of the Texas class. Apparently, this is from when he was from his past. Apparently, he helped create the Texas class, and that's why he had that implant put into him to make him forget his involvement in the Texas class. And when he figures out his involvement, he then realizes that he did not fix all the problems from his design, because apparently his designs are the same as his designs for Badgie. So basically, Admiral Gwen has a bunch of ships with the same coding as Badgie. So there are a bunch of insane ships with daddy issues. That was... When I fucking realised that, I was like, oh my fucking god, they're all gonna fucking die. I thought that was funny. Again, Badgie, I liked Badgie from the first season. He's an insane character. So, having a bunch of ships just like him, that's funny. That really is funny and dangerous. But anyway, so, when Rutherford tells the captain about this, and tells the Admiral about this at the same time, the Admiral goes insane, orders the Texas class to attack Cerritos, but unfortunately, when he gives the Texas class full control of its own systems, it goes insane and just kills Admiral Gwen, because it again has daddy issues. And then it activates two other Texas classes, and both ships then... No, all three ships attack the star base and kill a bunch of innocent people. The Cerritos is no match for the Texas class, as it's too powerful for its ship. And then when Starfleet orders a Sovereign class to help engage the three Texas class ships, the Texas class ships manage to knock out the Sovereign class's shields and its weapons, and they nearly destroy it. but Captain Friedman contacts the Texas class computer and tells them about Rutherford, and pretty much makes the Cerritos the Texas class's main target, which I thought was great. The Cerritos then goes to warp, getting chased by the 3 Texas classes. Whilst they're running from the Texas classes, the Bajoran security officer shouts, "We need to eject the core," which he usually says a lot, which is pretty pointless. But Boimler stands up for the Bajoran guy and says they need to eject the core because it's a smart idea to destroy all 3 Texas class ships. So the captain agrees to it. They eject the core, which throws them out of warp. The warp core then explodes, destroying 2 of the Texas class ships. We then go to a next scene where Mariner finds out what's happened at the star base and what's happening to the Cerritos ship. She then decides to go help them because she misses Starfleet and she wants to rejoin because she doesn't like being a civilian. Again, I like that about her. I like the fact she wanted to go back to Starfleet, and she defends Starfleet, which is, again, something in Kurtzman Trek that has been lacking. You know, defending Starfleet and showing that it is a good organisation, not a creepy Trump, whatever they're trying to make it out to be in the new Kurtzman Trek world, which is weird. But anyway, so Mariner heads off to go and help the Cerritos. The Cerritos is then knocked out of warp. It's now disabled without the warp core. And when they find out one of the Texas class ships has survived, the Texas class ship attacks the Cerritos, destroying parts of the ship. And when Mariner comes out to try to fight the Texas class, it turns out Mariner has not come alone. She has brought with her the entire California class fleet with her. So they all warp in and they all manage to defeat the Texas class ship, destroying the threat to the Federation. And then the final scene is everybody having a party on the Cerritos whilst it's getting repaired back at the base, and Mariner rejoining Starfleet and showing that she now wants to, you know, go up in rank and wants to make a decent career out of Starfleet. And I like that in this episode. And that's how the episode ends, with some cringy Boimler stuff, but we won't go into that. I did like this episode. It is the best episode out of all 3 seasons. I enjoyed every part of it. I loved the badgy, you know, crazy computer stuff that happened. And yeah, again, if they put more, you know, determination, they put more fun stuff like this in their episodes, this show would be better, in my opinion. But unfortunately, we do have to remember this is Lower Decks, and when we get a great episode, we tend to get more shit episodes overall, unfortunately. But I'm not going to say this episode's terrible, because it's not. It is the best episode of the seasons, and I really did enjoy it. And that's the end of my review. If you like this review, give it a like. If you dislike this review, give it a dislike. And if you like my content, do think about subscribing. Entertainment World Soldier, bye.